Hello, I realized that was all live. Hello and welcome to Behind the Screen. This is JM. Had a little bit of a rough morning to start, but glad to be here to talk about God's War. I'm going to trust that my producer is going to clear all of that up for me. I forgot to put my editing mode on. So welcome to everyone who is in the chat. This was a lot of fun to do and prep for. I am talking today on Behind the Screen about God's War, a game by Peterson Games that deals with the mythic age of Glorantha. And so let me transition over here. So this is the cover of God's War. It is a brilliant game. It is gorgeous. It will be coming out. I think they're going to have backer kit stuff, and they've done a second Kickstarter for it. They're going to be doing a limited run. So if you like this review, if you like what we're doing, jump in as quickly as you can to back this when Peterson Games goes live. You should definitely check out Peterson Games. They make a ton of great games. Cthulhu Wars. They do some Cthulhu-themed RPG material, and then they do God's War. And if you know anything about me or Iconic Production, you know that we love Glorantha, the mythological Bronze Age world by Sandy Peterson. Good to see Ben and Padre, and I'm going to attempt your name here. Kazips, tell me if I pronounced that correctly, in the chat this morning. So let's talk about God's War and why it's awesome. Well, first of all, this is the cover of the box, and you have this epic Orlanthe hero fighting a dark brew creature, brewer, the beastmen of chaos in this game. And what I love about this game is in the core box, it comes with 4 empires, and in the empires box, you get another 4 empires, and it covers the God time, the mythological prehistory time when the gods are doing all of their great deeds and going to war against chaos. Rook, good to see you. Padre, good to see you as well. So in this game, it is an area control game. And so when you initially see the board, it's going to look like a game like Risk. So here's the board of God's War. You've got continents, and those continents are subdivided, and you have units that are moving around the board, and you can do battle. But you don't want to get stuck in this idea of it is a battle game. It is an asymmetrical area control game. And what I mean by that is that each faction has its own rules, its own way to generate victory points. Its units have their own stats and abilities. So it's not perfectly asymmetrical. A good example of a perfectly asymmetrical game would be something like the Netrunner card game, where the corp cards work completely different than the hacker cards. And so this is asymmetrical in the fact that you're all trying to get victory points, just the way that you generate them might vary a little bit, but everyone has kind of their basic abilities and ways to do that. So if you follow Exploring Glorantha, which our new episode will be going live on Saturday, it's going to be a pre-recorded episode, but both Evan and I will be in the chat to chat with people about it. And we're talking about trolls, which I'm very excited about. I know that Rook is a big fan of the trolls, and I hope to see him in the chat on Saturday when we do our big discussion on them. But the game is broken up into 3 main phases. You have kind of the initial phase, and then where you're setting out your pieces, you're moving around, you may do a couple of battles. And then chaos invades. So if you go back and listen to our God Time episode on Exploring Glorantha, you'll get a better idea of the phases of the game. And so then at the time when chaos breaks into the world, chaos, the faction, is at its strongest. The rest of the factions are sacrificing units trying to close the Great Rift. And then you enter into the time of the Great Compromise. So it basically breaks out into everything that happens before chaos enters the world, the time of darkness, greater and lesser darkness, and then sort of the Lightbringer quest, which ends in the Great Compromise. And the game ends when the Great Compromise is over, and you see which faction wins. We are all ooze. Or we is all ooze. I like that, Rook. I'm really excited to do the ooze episode on Saturday morning. If you haven't tuned into Exploring Glorantha, plug for one of our other shows. Evan and I just love this world. This whole shelf is nothing but Glorantha. And we're going through the Mythic Races and why they're cool and why you should use them in the game. So, speaking of the Mythic Races, the core box comes with 4 of them. The blue faction is the Orlanthi, the Storm Tribe. The yellow faction is the Sun Tribe, or the Sky Tribe, led by Yelm, the God Emperor of the universe. The sort of grayish faction is the Trolls, the Darkness Tribe. And the purple are the, excuse me, the Chaos faction. And what I love about this is Sandy Peterson and his design team clearly love Glorantha deeply. Because there are things that if you don't know the lore, you're going to have a great time and you're going to enjoy the game. But you're not going to pick up on the little things. So like Yelm starts in hell. And why does he start in hell? Well, because the game starts the moment Orlanth slays Yelm with death and sends him into the underworld. So you don't know why your greater god is in hell if you haven't looked at the mythology of God's War. But other things I love about this game. All right, so this is your starting shrine. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on it. It's a little shrine. You can place it anywhere there isn't a shrine, and you get to toss units down around it. Well, when you upgrade your shrine to a temple, if you can see, here's the temple. Looks pretty cool. But there is a little miniature model of that shrine inside of it. And then when you finally build your ziggurat, you can see that the ziggurat on top has the shrine, or the temple, and the shrine inside of it. Other things that are great about this game is when you bring your normal units are about, let me pull one out. This is a duck. So when we do our duck episode, you will see why I love these. But here's a duck mini. It's got the death rune plastered all over it, some scale mail on it. So this is your normal sized unit. And then you go to put your greater god out. So this is Orlanth, the god of the Storm Tribe, versus a normal sized unit in the game. When you throw down your greater gods, you actually feel like you are doing something massive and impressive in the game. So I brought out some of the minis. You got Orlanth, the four-armed god of the storm. You got Kyger Latour actually birthing trolls out of this giant gross egg sack on her back. You have Yelm, the Sky Emperor, and so you have kind of his happy face and his angry face. And then like Ragnalar, the Chaos God. Like, look, I mean, this mini is this is a miniature. So as you're moving these things around, yes, Quack Attack is back, Jack. Rook, I'm going to give you a iconic point. I'm not sure what we'll redeem them for, but that is just too good alliteration or rhyming to not give some sort of reward out for. So as you're playing the game, you're going around, you're engaging in these mythic conflicts with giant minis throwing just 15 to 20 dice at a time to kind of see how this works out. But again, it's disguised behind an area control game. The more land you control, the more shrines and temples that you have out, the better the reward is, the more victory points you get. And so if you look here on the board, you can see that you have these little play mats, and you'll see these blank spots. So every group has 6 hero quests, and hero quests, they trigger for different reasons. So like Orlanths are like when you kill something, you can place a hero quest gift out. And so you have these 6 hero quest gifts. Each spot has a different trigger for putting one of these special game-breaking rules that only work for you in play. And what's great about this game is if you play through it, you're going to feel your faction is totally balanced. And everyone else's is broken. And everyone at the table is going to feel like that. And that's a sign of good game design, especially for an asymmetrical game. If everyone thinks that theirs is the only truly balanced faction and everyone else's feels broken, then I feel like Sandy has done a great job designing this game. You can see in the upper right-hand corner of this image, you can go to Hell, you can go to the Sky Dome, you can fly around on a floating island, and if you buy the expansions, it just adds more variety and depth to the game. So for example, you can get the Empires box that adds 4 new factions and takes the game from a 3 to 4 player game to a 3 to 8 player game. And there's the sea tribe, the earth tribe, the invisible god, so the monotheists, if you will, of the western edge of the continent, and then the moon. So you can actually play as the red goddess and have saloon assassins kind of moving around the board. There is the buildings expansion adds like cool 3-dimensional buildings, instead of little cardboard chits. And then I showed you a couple of the figures from what is called the Elder Races, and you actually get to recruit. You can recruit, this large dragon figure. You can recruit crazy scorpion men. I feel like someday I should actually paint all of these up. There's just so many of them. And then finally, so what's interesting about the Elder Races faction is you put one Elder Race on the board for every person playing, and then you have to engage in diplomacy. And so they add a specific unit to your army if you engage in that. So every time you play with the Elder Races, there's like 15, and you're only ever going to play with 3 to 8. Changes the dynamic of the game. There are also 3 other boxes. The Dragons of Glorantha, the Chaos Monsters of Glorantha, and the Cosmic Monsters of Glorantha. And each of those, you put one out in play, and they change the game. If I remember correctly, the Chaos Monsters run around and just add chaos to the board. The Cosmic Monsters punish the player who's in first place. And I think the dragons the dragons do whatever they want. The Chaos Monsters help those who are in last place. And so essentially, as you're playing this game, as you get more expansions, it's not adding new factions, aside from the Empires one, but it's adding balancing mechanics to kind of help shake things out. And so when you sit down to play this, it does take 2 to 3 hours to play. It's a deeply rewarding game. I joked that I was going to make stories about this the last time that we played this. Ben, who is sometimes in the chat, played Chaos, and he really got into role-playing his faction. And that's one of the great things. If you know Glorantha, you can add little snarky comments. You can really build on this. I think the best Gloranthan story that I have from God's War is 2 years ago. I do this little event where I have friends come down to the area. We role play all weekend, and then we always end the weekend with a game of God's War. And so the judge of the Great Compromise gets to hand out victory points. So it picks one player to have 4 victory points, and then one player for 3, and then 2, and then 1. If you're playing large enough of a game, it goes 0, and then -1, and then -2. And there were 2 players who were neck and neck for first place. And Ben asked what happens in a tie, and in a tie, people lose. And so Ben ended the game by ensuring that the 2 people who were vying for first ended up with the exact same victory point and ended up losing the game. And so it was the compromise where no one won and everyone lost. And some of us thought that was really funny. Some of us, especially the 2 people who were in the lead, did not find that nearly as funny. Oh yeah, Padre, that's a good point. Do an army shade or army builder quick shades. I actually just got a massive one of their mega kits in of the army painter paints. Do 1 layer and then dip and shade and protect them. That would be an easy way to do that. And then I would probably come along the bases and repaint the bases kind of the faction color. I like that idea a lot. If I start doing some painting, when I get back into painting, I may show off some of those if I jump into this. The problem would be is I would want all of the faction painted before the next time I played the game, and it's a lot of minis. Now they ran a Kickstarter for a second set of expansions, and so later this year, hopefully, we're going to see 3 new gods added to each faction. The War God, so Orlanth's getting the Storm Bowl, which I'm just very excited about. The God of Magic for each faction, and the God of Secrets. And I don't know if the Backer Kit is still open, but you can go out and check that out. If it is, now is the time to jump in, because I know when they did the initial God's War run, They only produced a certain overage, and then that was available on their website. But basically, this was a love letter to the fans of Glorantha. So, why get into this game? One, it's very well designed. Sandy Peterson designs great board games. If you like this idea but would much rather play in the Cthulhu mythos, check out Cthulhu Wars. They're slightly different in the nuance of the mechanics. I would say that God's War ends up being like a stately duel between large armies and factions, and Cthulhu Wars is a knife fight in the back alley with Elder Gods. You're just going to keep bringing your Elder God out and brutalizing the other side, and then your god dies and you've got to bring it back. Padre, I have seen that too. So Padre commented on the fact that he's never tried this technique, but saw that used in Zombicide, the Black Plague, another great game that requires a lot of mini painting. And I think you're right, the dip, which is sort of what I refer to it. You paint it and you dip it in this shading. And it's almost like a wash, but it's designed that you just dip the mini in, kind of pull it out, and this it adds contrast, and then it gets into the deep crevices of the mini to add shading. So yeah, that may be something I try with some of maybe like the Elder Races, just to add some contrast to them. But again, God's War and Cthulhu Wars, both great games, both filled with giant minis. I do love the fact that in Cthulhu Wars, if everyone loses, which is possible in Cthulhu Wars, then humanity wins and everyone gets to rejoice, because if Cthulhu wins Cthulhu Wars, it's not great for humanity. So again, just kind of showing off some of the minis that are available. Here is the sort of the starting faction in God's War. So again, purple is Chaos. You can see it comes with 6 brew, and then the unholy trio, Malia, Theed, and Ragnalar. With the Darkness tribe, you get Crag Spider, the Fire Witch. You get, which is that spider in kind of the upper right-hand corner of the Darkness tribe. You get some Shades and some Trolls. Yelm has the Emperor, Yelm, Phoenixes, and Archers. And then Storm has Orlanth, a Thunder Brother, 3 Storm Bulls, and then 3 Barbarians. So that brings my kind of overview of God's War. I would say complexity-wise, it is not, in general, especially with the starter box, it is not a massively complex game. You can sit down and read the rule book, you can jump online and look at the videos and get started very quickly in the game. The more complex factions are like Chaos, Moon, and I would say Sea and Earth. So everybody in the Empires faction they're still balanced with the core game, but they are a more complex way to play the game. So if you like Risk is a bad example, but like Chaos in the Old World, which is an old fantasy flight game where you're playing as the Chaos Gods, that is a good example where, yes, you want to throw hordes of army into battle, but really it's about taking the territory and not so much slaughtering your opponent's army. So that is my overview of God's War. I love talking about games. I think next week, if we do a game review, we're going to look at Against the Dark Master, another D100 game that I love. If you have ever played Middle-earth role-playing, it is a love letter to the old Rolemaster Middle-earth role-playing games. We're going to look at that, but on Tuesday, we're going to finish up the design of the Kashaptu, which has turned into a terrifying, villainous creature for Ekiazaru. And then we're going to jump into kind of the Lycans and the flesh-eating wolf creatures that inhabit the Valley of Troikas. I may also do if you guys would be interested, I could do an after-action report on my Jackals game that I'm running. I'm running a home game of Jackals, my Bronze Age fantasy, Ancient Near East inspired RPG. The group has just finished up their first adventure. Kind of gelled, almost died, but managed to survive, and have now taken a contract with a Melkoni Anaxi, so the ruler of the city, to go help found a colony. So maybe what we'll do next week is, instead of doing a game review, we'll finish up the design on the Ekizaru monster, and then I'll do an after-action report of my Jackals game. And then in the following weeks, I really want to cover Against the Dark Master, I want to cover Zweihander, and I want to cover Ruin Masters, 3 excellent D100 games that are currently available. If you like D100 games and you like sort of the grim and perilous feel of Warhammer, but want something a little bit more generic, I would say check out Zweihander. We're going to do a review on it, but the reason I mention it is they have a Kickstarter going on right now for a starter box, and it is a unique look at a starter box in the fact that what they're wanting to do is, I don't want to say they want to replace their big books, but I mean, these are their big books here. They want to have something that you would actually use 75% of the table. You're going to use the books in the starter box, and then just have to go back to the big box or the big books when you're doing character creation, character advancement, or adventure planning. So we're going to do a review of Zweihander hopefully before the Kickstarter ends. But if you are at all interested in that, go check out the starter box on Kickstarter. We'll be back on Tuesday with more Behind the Screens. This weekend, as I said, at 10 a.m. Central, we will be doing our Troll video for Exploring Glorantha, and next Saturday we have our next installment of the Grand Campaign, this multi-generational, multi-group, multi-year way of approaching RPGs. That's something that's very close to my heart, as well as Richard and Josh. So Padre, good to see you. Rook, #1 fan, always good to see you guys. To everyone else who is in here, thank you so much for joining us. I love doing this. If you like what we're doing, please consider commenting on the YouTube videos. I try to reply to every comment that I see on the YouTube videos. Consider following us here on Twitch, following us on YouTube, liking the videos if you like them. It helps the algorithm put these things in front of people who would enjoy this as well. Tell people about it if you like it, and please consider sending other people our way. And we'll be back on Tuesday with more design. Yes, Padre, you are Restart. There we go, #2. And Padre, good to see you as well. Thanks for interacting. Padre, it's been great to get to starting to know you on the Twitch stream. Restart, always good to see you, buddy. And Rook, Trolls Saturday, looking forward to it. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I am JM, and this has been Behind the Screen, an Iconic production. Have a good one.